On today's episode of RC Kicks, we're building an F1 car from Schumacher. The first ever F1 car produced by this manufacturer, so stay tuned to find out, is it any good? Welcome to RC Kicks. On today's show, we're building an F1 car from Schumacher Racing, which is a UK-based RC manufacturer. Now, this is a new one for them. They've never built a Formula 1 car before, so I was really interested in getting it in because I am a big F1 fan. I have a few in the collection up here, but these are vintage ones. Kyosho and 2 Tamiyas. This is a dedicated racing Formula 1 car. So the idea of this kit is that you take it racing, whereas these are more model slash vintage. This is all carbon. So yeah, looking forward to finding out just how good this really is. I've never driven a modern Formula 1 racing car. Schumacher kits usually are very track focused, so this should really perform and I'm really looking forward to it. But there's a balance, because if you're going for more track focused, then you're actually looking for a vehicle that's going to perform. Now, the other side of it is that it looks like a Formula 1 car, so you sometimes have two opposing ideas that don't necessarily play well together. So luckily a Formula 1 car is kind of designed along the lines of the rules, but also performance. So that kind of helps in this instance, that you can take some of those elements and it will perform on a smaller scale, but not everything, obviously. So there's things in this kit that they had to do that you wouldn't do on a Formula 1 car. So it'd be interesting to see how realistic it looks versus how well it performs. Right, what else can I tell you about this kit? Well, it's K189. It retails for £299.99. I'll put that exchange rates down below. I had a quick look this morning, and as of this video, I've seen £269.99. So do shop around if you're looking to get one of these. It doesn't come with wheels, tyres, it doesn't come with a body as well. When I first picked this up, bodies and tyres were really hard to get because they didn't have enough. Now, it's been a few months since this came out, so hopefully if you're looking to purchase one now, that you will have more options on the bodies available. The body that I went for was the one that's actually the one that Schumacher used for their photographs, so I will paint it up to be along the same sort of lines, I'm thinking, or maybe I might make it look more like a realistic car. We'll see as we get further down the line how realistic it looks. If it doesn't, I'll probably do it box art. If it's starting to look quite realistic, then maybe I'll paint it up like a more modern Formula 1 car. I don't know yet. It was too far out for me because I don't plan this kind of stuff, because I don't plan anything, I just sort of go with it. Anyway, right, let's unpack it and then let's make a start. Well, that wasn't that difficult to lay out. Schumacher does it all by steps. So you just lay out your steps 1 to 24, nice and easy. You don't have to break open lots and lots of bags at the beginning and set up all your bits and pieces. You just lay them out, pick up step 1, open it up, use the bits, move on to step 2, 3, 4, so on. There's a couple of extra bags that are separate, and that is a carbon fiber bag. We all like bags full of carbon, so that's pretty cool. Now we kick off on page 2 where we start with the chassis. Right, so we've got to put all the uprights on the chassis first. So let's crack on and get it done. Well, it's good to know that the first bolt I fit on the kit is in the wrong place. I should have fitted it in the outside hole right at the back of the chassis, but for some weird reason I fitted it incorrectly. This kit has a lot of metal parts that you're screwing into, so you definitely want to be using your Loctite.
Now Schumacher usually puts quite a lot into each step, so make sure you check that you've done all aspects of that step before you move on. You can usually tell if you've missed something because if you open the bag and empty it out into a container, there should be almost nothing left when you go to open your next bag. Now I didn't have to fight anything in this kit, everything lined up exactly as it should do. So if you find that you've got a bit of a challenge on your hands, double check that you've got everything right before you force it. Now there's quite a few upgrade parts that you can get for this area. You can get the alloy pivot spacer 1mm, which is Atom 2, which is U7897. You can also get the alloy pivot mount, which is U7918. And you can get the alloy pivot block Atom 2, which is U7919. This allows you to have more adjustment in that area.
Right, we've made it to step 5, page 4. It's coming along. I just thought I'd stop here and just go over a few bits and pieces that I found before we move on, otherwise I'll forget. Now, there's a few things that are a little bit of a gotcha for me. I made a mistake and put this bolt on the inside, and it should have been on the outside. So that's one thing, make sure, but that was a simple, just disconnect it and put it back on the spot. That wasn't a problem. The part that sticks out the back is slightly different to what's in the manual. They must have updated it slightly, so don't let that throw you off. I'll put a picture up here of what it looks like, and you can see it's got an extra mounting point on it. The little brass attachments, you have to use a bolt with a washer, and then you put it in and you do it up and it pulls it into the carbon. You can't do them by hand. So make sure you don't miss that in the manual, because that's one that you might struggle thinking that you can just pop them in, but you can't. The carbon hole is too tight. Also make sure with the top front there's 3, 2 at the back and 1 underneath, and you got to get the orientation correct, because I think if you put it in the wrong hole and you do it up, I think you're going to struggle to get them out again. You don't want to damage the carbon. The only other thing that you'll be careful of is this little part in the middle here. It uses a screw, but it's a much thinner screw, so don't use the same length screw that's a fatter one. That's basically, let me just go back and look at it for it, because I made that mistake, and that is a M2 5x8. It's very easy to get that mixed up with another screw, which I'm trying to find, but I can't find it. So just be mindful of that one as well, because I made a mistake and started putting it in and like, that doesn't feel right, and then I checked it. What else? That's pretty much it. I've just fitted this section here. It's all beautiful, it all goes together well. There's no massive fighting to get bits in. So now we move on to page 4, number 6. There's only 24 steps in this one, so it shouldn't take too long to get this chassis done.
In step 6 diagram, it can be a little bit confusing. As you can see here, there is an overlay between one set of bolts and the front section which has the spring in it. You actually just clip the spring onto the metal bit above it. It will clip in. You don't actually put a bolt all the way through the spring, as it kind of looks in the diagram. Now you don't have to true up your servo right now, you can leave it to the end. There's plenty of access to adjust it later.
It's the money, it's the money, it's the money, yeah. It's the money, it's the money, it's the money, yeah. It's the money.
Now there's some optional parts available for this area of the car. You can get U8123, which is carbon fibre, camber strapped, 6mm width, 2 degrees, so you can set your camber adjustments. You can also choose to change the whole chassis and have U8127, which is an alloy chassis.
It's the money, it's the money, it's the money, yeah. It's the money.
Straight out of the box, you have fantastic steering. There is hardly any slop in this steering at all.
So that's now got us to page 9, number 14, and it's coming along. So far, impressions very good, very, very good. One thing that I really liked was the way they've designed this top plate. So what you can actually do is slide the top plate back and forward, and it will actually adjust the caster. So give them credit. It's a very, very simple but yet complicated way of doing it. So I'm very impressed with that. Also, it feels very strong. When you start messing around with stuff like this, you worry that when you've got the wheels on, that if you hit the wheel, you're going to damage this. But what they've done is all these uprights are in aluminium. They're turned aluminium, so they're really bang on. And then the whole idea that you just loosen it off and you can push it backwards and forwards, and then they've used sort of the rods are in like ball joints, so they will tilt. Fantastic, really good. Also, you can set the steering limits, very simple, with a little screw, so you can adjust the screw to have shorter or larger end points, which is really, really nice. Goes together very well. So completely happy with it. Obviously you have to use a half height servo in this, otherwise it will stick right out. You could put a full size servo in it, but obviously it's going to stick out the side, which you don't want. So really you've got to go with a half height servo. What's next? Now we move on to doing the rear section, which is basically the rear ball diff. So let's crack on and keep going. I'm really enjoying this build, and precision, quality, yeah, very, very good. Very impressed with this one.
Now you can change the rear axle to a carbon fibre version, which is U4970. Now when you're going to build your diff, the best thing to do is lay everything out first, get the orientations correct and the sequence correct. That way when you start you have everything at hand and you're not hunting for missing parts. In step 19, depending on your wheelbase settings, you have to decide how many extensions you need. If you went for the long wheelbase, you'll need 2 extensions. If you have the shorter one, it's just a single. In step 21 and step 22, I'm just building the wings front and rear and just fitting them. I will decide to change the angle of attacks, and you have the option to have 3 canards on the front wing or 2. Now you don't get wheels and tyres in the kit, so obviously you're going to purchase which ones suit your driving style or the course you're going to be running on. Now you have lots of choices when it comes to tyres. I went with the JF1-42FA contact tyres from Schumacher. That's the front section, which is 63mm, and then I went with the JF1-28RA, which is the 63mm rear. So we're almost ready to call it a day. It's just time to put my tools away and give you a wrap up.
And I think we'll call the chassis built. What did I think from it? Quality, bang on. No qualms whatsoever with quality. Everything goes together just as it should. There's no bending stuff to get in. There's no fettling to line up holes or anything like that. So yeah, Lovely bits of all machine metal in this kit. This kit is quality, but then you're kind of paying for it, so it should be. One thing I really notice is, watch this. There is almost no... It's super smooth. There's no resistance whatsoever. The amount of options of what you can do to set this car up, again, very high. Everything from aero, where they give you 2 options of louvers at the front. You can change the rear angles of attack, height. You can lower it down. You can change this top wing. This is in the short wheelbase at the moment, but you can extend it very quickly to a longer wheelbase if you get to a track that's got more straights. And if it's a short, tiny course, you can move it back to a short wheelbase very quickly. You can also adjust the caster just by loosening a few screws and sliding this back and forward, so adjust that. Yeah, you get a lot to dial in on this car, and that's exactly what Schumacher are trying to give you. They're trying to give you an out-and-out racer. I'm looking forward to running it. So what's next? Well, we've got to put electronics in it. We've got to put a motor in it. I've ordered some new electronics, so hopefully that's going to turn up soon. And we've got to paint up the body and cut it all out. So that's what's coming up. But up to now, super happy. Anyway, thanks very much. Please like and subscribe. And if you'd like to support the channel, head over to Patreon. If you'd like to see more content from behind the scenes and see things a little bit earlier than you do now. See you soon. Bye-bye.